Okay, well, I feel like Dylan Johnson actually, sat here in front of my bike. Feels very fitting. Okay, so I asked for some questions so I could make this video, both on Instagram, and some of you left some on the bottom of my most recent video as well, where I did that time trial. If there's any questions that, well, there's quite a broad spectrum of questions, which I'll try and get through really quickly, but if there's any more, leave them down below and I will either answer them down below or I will try and answer them somehow in the videos from now until next weekend, basically until the event, the 312 out in Mallorca, and well, our PB attempt up Calobra. Fingers crossed that the weather's good. So let's get on to the questions. What tyres and at what PSI? So I'm going to be running Continental Grand Prix 5000s clincher with Tubolito tubes. They are 25 millimeters. PSI wise, bearing in mind road surface is reasonably decent in Mallorca, or at least better than Wales, I'll probably be running about 90 PSI. Is Charlie doing the 167 alone? And good luck to you both. Thank you. Charlie is doing the 167 alone, but if any of you are watching and you're also riding, no doubt you'll see her on the route. Give her a shout. I will be thinking about her all day while I'm out there riding the 312. We might even cross paths because the routes sort of collide a little bit at one point. She might be coming to the end of the 167 as I'm sort of 200 kilometers in, maybe, if timing is correct. That'll be really cool if I get to give her a pat on the back and she gives me a nice cheer as I go past. Fueling for such a long race is super important. What is your strategy? There's been quite a few questions along the fueling route, and as you can probably see here, I've got a bar bag on, and I'm going to be using 500ml water bottles. The energy products I'll be using, powder wise, energy drink wise, is going to be from a brand called Sturka. I've only recently started using it, but I've found it to be the most neutral tasting and just the most straightforward, no gut issues, just works product that I've used over the last like 10 plus years. So they've got a handy fuel guide on their website, which gives you a little bit of an idea as to like where and sort of how much you can consume during whatever sort of length, intensity, duration, whatever the event is. So I've sort of selected that 9 to 10 hour range, and because I'm going to be self-supported, and I'm going to be taking like some sachets of energy powder with me. I'm also going to be taking some bars. That's where the bar bag comes in. So how I see this working is bar bag. This is from Django Rolls, by the way. You can find them on Instagram. I get so many questions about bar bags. It's like, it's not failed me, and once it's on, I rarely ever take it off. In there I can probably fit like 10 bars. So I'm undecided yet as to how many exactly I'm going to take with me, but I'm going to aim for about like 40 grams of carbs in a bar. Probably just get it from a supermarket, something that already works. Sturka don't make a bar, but they do make energy fuel powder. They also make gels, but I'm going to stick with the powder because that's what I know. So I'm going to carry a couple of sachets of powder with me, probably about 4 sachets. I'm going to start with energy in one bottle, and I might go for the 90 grams of carbs in that bottle because I know the intensity, the majority of the intensity is going to come in the first half at least, because you've got the climbs and you're kind of forced to ride harder than you probably like on the hills. So the strategy wise, I'm probably going to try and shoot for like 80 grams of carbs an hour. No doubt though that like as intensity starts to drop off, which you know it probably will over the last couple of hours because the roads are flatter, you know, we won't have to work so hard going up the big mountains and the demand won't be there as such, that may well taper off. I won't panic. I'll more likely by that point just eat and drink to thirst and hunger levels. Always trust your body. But as far as like starting, that's going to be full of bars, and then I'll put like the sachets in my back pocket, And the feed stations are pretty good apparently, so as long as I'm just sort of in and out and just not like hanging about and stuff, I'm probably just going to fill up my bottles with water and then get going. So 90 grams of carbs to start, and then we'll just trickle it in throughout the day and chuck that powder in when need be. There's a tiny electrolyte packet that Sturk actually do as well, which has like 320 milligrams of sodium and a couple of other bits and bobs. It's a really small packet, so I'm able to take like 3 of those with me. So if, for example, I start to get carbohydrate sort of fatigue in my bottle, drinking plain water is sometimes not ideal. So I can just chuck a tiny little sachet of that in there and guzzle down on that, which that itself also has a very neutral taste. It's a little sweet, but it's also salty. And it kind of like, it will be a nice balance between that carbohydrate sweetness and then that electrolyte powder as well. So in terms of gut rot, like, I'll hopefully avoid it by just using what I know works for me and not getting too carried away, because you can obviously undereat, and that's a bad thing, but you can also sort of eat too much and get carried away because you feel like, oh, I have to stay on top of this, I have to stay on top of this, which don't get me wrong, you know, you're always eating now for like 2 hours ahead. So, you know, obviously don't let it run away, but also keep in the back of your mind that, you know, don't push yourself if you've never tried, you know, eating that much before, you know what I mean? But lots of people have told me that anything under 10 hours is like very good for, like, you know, I guess the top, you know, 1 to 5% of finishers. It all depends on weather conditions, no doubt. It all depends if you're in a group or find a group. I'm not going to stress too much. I've got to be honest. Like, I've not put a cap on finishing time. I want to ride the climbs, like, you know, within myself, but like not too hard. But I also know that, like, it'll be great to push myself, and I would probably rather sort of see, you know, how the day pans out. And I don't want to give too much away here because it won't leave me anything to talk about in the actual day video, which I'm sure you're looking forward to. I'm going to enjoy the climbs, enjoy the descents, and then, you know, that flatter section, you know, from the halfway mark onwards, I'm just gonna ride and try and take off those kilometers, you know, whether I'm in a group or whether I'm solo or whether it's just me and, you know, another person. You know, I'll make it up as I go along, but I'm really there for just a day out, and I'm really there just to, you know, see what sort of time I can do. You know, sub 10 hours is what people have told me is a handy time to shoot for. So, you know, let's just say something like that. This is a question regarding the Calobra personal best attempt. So seated versus standing on the climb, power increase versus aero loss. So, I mean, it's a 7% gradient, give or take. Going over 20 kilometers an hour up there, so aero does play a part. I am somewhat aerodynamic from all the time trials you see me do on my road bike, but that also lends itself to climbing as well. I would say for that whole climb, I'm 99.8% sure that I'll be seated the whole time. What am I going to eat after the 312? Eat whatever Charlie fancies. I think Charlie would have earned it and, like, really, like, hopefully turned herself inside out to finish that 167 in a time that makes her very, very proud and happy. And I'll give her free rein on where we go for nibbles. Are you going full skin suit, light setup as possible, hill climb mode, etc. for Calobra? Sort of. I don't know the situation yet, because chances are I'm going to be there like early for like an 8 AM start at the bottom. You know, we've got some people there at the top that I can just leave stuff with. But yeah, I'll probably end up, you know, taking everything off, lights, bar bag, no bottles. I'm in two minds about skin suit yet, but I suppose if I'm going to do it, I might as well just do it properly, because it's a controllable. It's not me versus like yes, I want to do my fastest time, and I know that a skin suit will help that. So am I going to throw away like 5 seconds by not wearing a skin suit? No. So I'll probably wear a skin suit, and I'll probably, well, obviously wear a helmet. I'll obviously, like, you know, I keep things as normal as possible within reason, but get rid of stuff that I won't need for that small section of road. There was a question on the time trial video recently about, do you think that on the day on Calobra you'll be able to eke out a couple more watts because you have to fight gravity as well, or am I equally as good as producing power on the flat as I am on a climb? So this question I think comes down to like what you really practice on the most. I do like an equal amount of training on climbs as I do training on the flat roads. But what a flat road teaches you is you're constantly like keeping the chain tight, you're constantly pedaling, otherwise, you know, the power does drop really easily. You know, you can go over a pothole on a flat bit of road at 50 kilometers an hour and you'll notice your power drops like instantly because that tension is taken out of the chain. If you're going up a climb, then obviously that's completely different because you are fighting gravity and there's almost always tension on that chain regardless of what happens, even if you go over a pothole at 10 kilometers an hour. I don't think I'll find a couple of extra watts unless of course there's people out there cheering me on and I get to the halfway mark and I'm feeling really good, just like I was the other night, and I can squeeze a bit more. But I'll probably be conservative and start and try and ride at what I rode that time trial at on Thursday night, which was like 385, and then I'll try and up it to finish like I did in that time trial with 400 watts for the last 10 minutes or so. So that's probably my pacing strategy. This is a great question regarding like breakfast prior to a really early start. The 312 starts at 6:30 in the morning. A lot of people are saying that you've got to get there really early to line up because it's virtually like a first come first served basis. So breakfast starts at the hotel that we're at 5 a.m. So it'll be a case of like having breakfast and then going straight away to like line up. Now I would always recommend like the day before you only ride say 90 minutes, but concentrate on that day on getting like you're periodizing all your carbohydrates, like you're getting like all of your carbohydrates through that day like in equal portions. Your fat intake is slightly lower potentially than what it usually is, and I would also say that you have like that carbohydrate heavy meal the night before. As long as you've eaten like a fair amount, and I'm talking like maybe, you know, 500 grams 600 grams of carbohydrates in that day, then that morning of the event, if it's a really early start, you can get away with like 100 grams of carbs. Like again, it's one of these situations where you got to try it before you do it, but it's also you have to make sure that you're not overfeeding out of, you know, panic or worry, and you have faith in the fact that like, yeah, I'll have 100 grams of carbs and I'll have like a little bit of fat, a little bit of protein, and then when I jump on the bike, like the first 20 minutes you eat something and you get into that habit. Like eating on the bike is more important than what you have, you know, the couple of hours leading up to it, but what you have the day before is more important. So if I was to put it into order of like, you know, what's more important, eating on the bike is the most important, and then eating a lot of carbohydrates the day before so that you're adequately fueled, and then eating like the morning of is like least important on my little made up order chart. But you know, because you see a lot of people who can do like great rides with very little in them for breakfast, but obviously then they can't go for very long. So as long as you prioritize where you're eating and how much, and obviously when you're riding. Quick question on that time trial: did you ride on the hoods or the drops for the time trial? I always ride on the hoods with my like forearms resting on the bars. It's really nice when you've got flat bars. Shout out to Black Ink. It's really comfortable, so it's actually more comfortable than a round bar. So yeah, I hold on and my arms are resting on the bars. Lots of comments from people saying, can't Factor send you a Hanzo time trial bike? Surely they could lend you one just for a collaboration. Maybe when I start to plateau and I'm not constantly improving then. Bertie asked, do you think you could continue to build on this form, pull off 7 watts per kilo for 20 minutes? I think it would be a tough ask. I've always been ambitious to try and achieve something like that. Given how well I'm going this early in the year, then, you know, touch wood, I look after myself and I stay healthy. You know, who knows we could come quite close to it at the end of this year. So that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video of a Q&A ahead of the Mallorca. Quick note on the Calobra PB attempt. I have this thing that like I want to encourage everybody else to try and personal best the climb as well if you're in good shape and you feel like you can get close to it. You know, maybe do it on the same day, maybe you can even do it at the same time as me. We can ride out to the climb and, you know, a small group of us descend it, and then we can just, you know, all hammer it up the climb. I don't know, I have these ideas in my head that I've just popped up last minute, but we'll get some photos from it. Hopefully we can get some videos from it. I'm encouraging anybody and everybody to come along and to like try and help get some footage for it, because I will be running a GoPro on the front for the Calobra PR attempt and for the 312 as well. So yeah, I hope it comes out good, and fingers crossed we have good weather and like low wind. But yeah, my plan is to do that on the Thursday morning potentially, like leave at 6, ride over, and then like have a crack at about 8 AM. And that'll be Thursday, so it'll give me, you know, a good sort of 48 hours to get over it and get ready for the 312. So that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry about the echo, like, because I'm like actually sat here filming in the toilet. So yeah, it's glamorous. It's glamorous. So thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you soon.